When recruiting in college football 26, not only are you going to see a lot of quality of life improvements, but how about an all new feature called Recruiting Battle that's going to make online dynasty recruiting against users super fun and competitive? Let's talk about it. What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Welcome back into JCCFB, where you can see all kinds of college football video game content with me, JC, here today to talk about the recruiting that's going to be going on in college football 26 in your dynasties and your online dynasties, some of the upgrades that they've made to the recruiting menus, to the interface, a lot of quality of life stuff. But one thing that really sticks out to me is the addition of the new recruiting battles, which are going to be really fun. Those can be triggered late in the recruiting process. And of course, you can be competing against some CPU people and your regular offline dynasty, but I think that this really will come into play and make online dynasty even more fun, because then you'll have those guys that you're battling for, and then you can keep an eye on them if they end up going to the other program. See, hey, was this a guy that I should have landed, or is it okay that I missed out on him? Or maybe you win the recruiting battle and he goes on and is the guy that is a superstar for you. So that'll just be something fun to track against other users, maybe some of your friends in online dynasty. So a lot of fun stuff here involved with the recruiting updates, which we'll get to momentarily from the clip from a live stream I did covering the Dynasty deep dive. But before I play that, I just want to hit you guys with a reminder really quickly. If you would, just take a quick second, move your thumb over, move your mouse over, whatever device you're on there, and just hit that little thumbs up button there. That really helps a ton with that YouTube algorithm. It'll help this video find more college football video game fans like yourself. And if you are a fan of that college football video game and you haven't, you should definitely hit that subscribe button, stay up to date on all the news for the game, and get a bunch of fun gameplay tips, gameplay content, dynasty series, all of that once the game releases. And also newly launched channel memberships here on JCCFB. If you're willing and able, you can hit the join button in the video description or on the YouTube channel homepage. That's going to help me keep this mic recording, keep that camera rolling, keep this channel going, and providing you guys the college football video game content that you enjoy. And in addition to that, you scratch my back, I scratch your back. I will provide you with a bunch of bonus content, including exclusive mini schemes once the game releases. We're going to have members only live streams. We're going to have weekly college football recap shows, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. A lot of fun stuff planned there for channel members, and of course you get custom emojis, badges, and all of that fun stuff as well. So something to consider if you're willing and able. Would definitely appreciate that here on JCCFB. But with that bit of housekeeping out of the way, let's dive into it. Let's get into how recruiting works in college football 26's dynasty mode, including a new feature known as Recruiting Battle. Location-based recruiting. This is pretty cool touch as well. Now we're talking a little bit about some of the new things coming to recruiting, which is nice to touch on. Let's dive into recruiting a little bit here. It's easier and cheaper to get a player to campus when they live nearby. Driving 100 miles is a very different challenge than flying across the country. And in CFB 26, they replicated that reality through location-based recruiting. The cost of a visit is now directly tied to how close a recruit is to your campus, making geography a meaningful factor in your weekly recruiting strategy, which is a nice touch. The higher a recruit's proximity to home grade with your school, the cheaper it will be to bring them in for a visit. So if they're super close, to have that high proximity to home grade, could be only 10 hours to schedule a visit for them. But if they're further away, then it's going to cost 40, like it did on last year's game. So there's going to be a lot more chances of it being, 10, 20, 30 points versus all of them being 40 points to schedule a visit last year. Now it's based on where are they located in, approximation to your school there, in proximity to your school. That's a significant swing, and one that forces you to think more strategically about where your targets are located and what your program can afford week to week. In 25, every visit costs a flat 40 hours. Of course, that's what I just talked about there. Now visits are much more efficient for local and regional player, but flying in a top recruit from across the country still comes at a premium, one that power programs may be able to absorb, while smaller schools will need to pick their spots because, of course, less hours available based on the team prestige, the my team grades, all of that they're talking about that factors into this. To help maximize your visits, the CEO archetype now includes a new ability, more the merrier. This ability doubles the number of players who can visit your campus in a single week. Ooh, that's going to be a good ability to have there. If you can reach CEO, which of course will take a while probably, but that more the merrier ability is nice, because then you can get a lot of guys in on visits, because that increases the cap from 4 to 8 absolutely doubling it. So nice. That extra flexibility can make a big difference during stretches of the season, especially when you're judging high priority targets or trying to align timing for multiple recruits. And if you're running a staff with a coordinator whose active archetype is strategist, the benefits can stack even further. Strategist perk grants bonus XP for every recruit who visits during a win. Wow. So you get that one right there at the CEO level. You get 8 visitors in, you win a game, you have them in for a big game where they get maximum points there, and you're really talking about shooting up the recruiting board then. So you have the potential to significantly boost Coach XP across the board. As we covered earlier, active archetype perks are now one of the most important drivers of coach progression, and this type of coordination between abilities can have a massive impact on how your staff levels up. Location-based recruiting costs create a sharper divide between the have and have-nots and reinforce the importance of building a recruiting strategy that reflects your program's research, identity, and resources. Discovering the next star. Scouting is a critical part of identifying which players fit your program and which recruits you want to go after. Coaches often refer to this as finding their OKGs, our kind of guys. In 26, they've made 2 key improvements to the scouting system that make it easier to use and more impactful as you build your recruiting board. Nice. They reordered how attributes are displayed during scouting, ensuring that shared ratings across archetypes appear in a consistent order for every position. In 25, this often made comparing prospects at the same position frustrating. Yes, it would be, because sometimes I'd be looking for, let's say, the speed rating, right? And you're scouting, and one player has it like on the left side of their list, third thing down. Scout another player, it's all the way on the right at the very bottom, and it was never consistent. So it sounds like that's going to be more consistent across the different archetypes now. As you're comparing 2 players of the same position, regardless of archetype, you'll see their shared attributes lined up the same way every time, making those comparisons easier. Good to know. Second, they've expanded the power of the mind reader ability within the strategist archetype. Previously, it only revealed a recruit's development trait during a visit, which often came too late to meaningfully influence the decision. Now, if you get mind reader for a recruit's position group, you'll be able to reveal their dev trait directly through scouting. Awesome. So, not going to have to wait. If you have that mind reader ability, you're not going to have to wait till the off season to see dev traits or until you have somebody in on a visit. You got mind reader ability and you're scouting them. It's going to show dev trait as well. That's awesome. That gives you a critical head start in identifying high potential prospects early in the cycle. So I'd say mind reader is going to be a highly sought after ability for people that want those guys that are really going to develop and become stars. Knowing which players have a huge potential upside and are truly special talents is now a strategic edge that you can learn and identify early in the process to maximize how you spend hours. And here we see a screenshot of that. So someone had that ability clearly because they scouted this quarterback, this pocket passer, and he has an impact development trait. So there you see that. Recruiting battles, something new coming to recruiting in CFB 26. So in 25, there were moments when 2 schools were locked in a close recruiting race, and it wasn't always clear why one team ultimately won out. When both programs were neck and neck, it could feel a little random at which school landed the commitment. Now, when one school reaches the commitment threshold and another is right behind them, a recruiting battle is triggered. The recruit won't commit right away, and instead they'll set a new higher commitment threshold, giving both schools a short window to make a final push. It's not a long extension, just enough to create space for a true head-to-head finish. From that point on, it becomes a race. Whichever school reaches the new commitment threshold first secures the commitment. This is when you'll pull out all the stops. It's a dead sprint to the finish line. Do everything you can. Push across the threshold before your rival does, because once that new threshold is hit, that recruit is off the board. And you know what this is really going to make fun? Online dynasty battles. Now you could get in recruiting battles with other users and stuff at online dynasty and have that trigger and really battle for guys and truly know who you battled for who. And then even if you lose that battle, then you can know where they're at and follow that player and be like, did I really miss out on a gym, or am I okay? Was he a bust? Stuff like that. And that really takes me back to 14 when it was kind of more clear who you were battling with, because I remember battling with a guy for a hell of an athlete recruit, and I didn't know where if I was going to put him at quarterback, receiver, or what. Ended up playing receiver and ended up leading me to a big natty win against a guy that was on a huge run. I think he'd won like 3 or 4 straight natties, was undefeated, and then I finally knocked him off, and that receiver was the reason why he had like 200 some yards in that game. So I always remember that when I think of recruiting battles, and those are going to be a lot more fun here on CFB 26. Recruit generation. This year, they've increased the number of recruits generated each season to 4,100, so it provides a deeper and more varied pool of talent for programs at every level. As part of this expansion, they've also rebalanced several key aspects of recruit generation, including physical and mental abilities, as well as each prospect's individual ratings. You'll still be able to find players with high level attributes and silver or gold tier abilities, the kinds of elite prospects that transform a program, but there'll be fewer of them overall. In particular, when it comes to athletes, they've reduced both the quality of the top end athlete prospects and the quantity generated across each position. That means it's going to be rare to find those truly elite prospects, but when you do, it'll feel special, and landing them will be a major win for your recruiting class. So, less in the athlete pool and less in the pool that have those kind of elite abilities there, those high level attributes, the silver and gold tier stuff. They've also reworked how pitches and deal breakers are assigned to better reflect the wants and needs of players today. Glamour positions like quarterback, running back, wide receiver, corner, and edge now put a much heavier emphasis on brand exposure to better reflect their expectations around NIL opportunities, which makes sense. Those players are going to want to get paid more, and the game's way of reflecting that is through the brand exposure thing there in the My Team ratings. Additionally, they've rebalanced the motivations and assignments of deal breakers across pitches to create more overlap. That the goal in mind there was to make it harder to immediately pinpoint a recruit's ideal pitch based solely on their deal breaker, requiring you to dig deeper to uncover what truly matters. They've also reduced the weights that most high school prospects will start at to better reflect players entering college with a less mature body. Makes sense. Players have to develop, particularly when you're talking about guys coming in on the line. A lot of times you get guys coming in, 260, 270, 280, and you got to get those guys up, close to 300 a lot of times, right? This allows weight to scale more naturally over time as they're going for the body and physically mature, which also tells me that means in, player progression phases, which I know we can mainly progress players now, but in the off-season phases of your dynasties and online dynasties, that players' weights are going to develop throughout their career from freshman on, and maybe potentially even heights as well. And I wonder what determines that, if it's more rating based, if it's random, if the development trait factored in there. That's interesting. I wonder if they'll touch on that, because it does say more on that later. As they've introduced a brand new lean body type, which is most noticeable at the wide receiver position. The lean body type better presents long, wiry athletes who may not be physically developed yet. To sway or not to sway, sway is one of the most powerful tools in your recruiting arsenal, but it's also one of the most misunderstood. In 26, they've made several improvements to make this feature clearer, more actionable, and easier to take advantage of when your school doesn't fully align with the recruit's motivations. Okay, so that's interesting, and maybe I'll try this, because I'm not going to lie, I didn't use sway on 25. I would, maximize my points, and then once I got, the ideal pitch unlocked, schedule the visit, and then on the visit week, I would hard sell on the week they were coming in their visit, and that was all I would use was hard sell. I didn't use soft sell or sway. So let's see what they've changed sway up here for. Sway is designed for those moments when your my school grades don't match up with the prospect's ideal pitch, or when you want to expand what a recruit cares about to include another pitch that plays to your strength. A successful sway allowed you to add a second ideal pitch, giving you more flexibility in how you engage with that recruit. In some cases, it can even unlock a third ideal pitch by creating additional overlaps. Okay, so I like that. I'll definitely probably be using sway this year now. So basically what they're saying is, guys, last year you wanted to unlock that ideal pitch, know which three of the My Team grades that player cared about the most. Those were the ones that were checked, of course, on the side. All the others would have the X's. And why that was important was for soft selling and hard selling a recruit. If their check marks, their ideal pitch lined up with something you were graded highly on, let's say like an A or a B, then a sell would have really good impact on that player. Well, now you can sway that player. So let's say, they have their ideal pitch unlocked, but one of those three abilities is like something that's a D or an F for you. Well, you can sway them to maybe care about something else, add another check mark there, and then you got another potential ideal pitch unlocked that maybe aligns more with your My Team grades and can help you in hard selling that prospect or soft selling that prospect. This year, when you select the action, you'll now see the probability of success before making the move, giving you more clarity around when and how to take your shot. Awesome. Your chance of success increases based on how much motivational overlap exists between the pitch you're trying to sway a recruit toward and their ideal pitch. For example, if two pitches share two motivations, your odds are much higher than if they only share one. And that difference is now clearly reflected in the UI. So check it out here. Success rate here on a sway. This one is high for that pitch, medium and low there. You see as they have the sway a little bit different here on this one, and definitely seems like something that'll be they've definitely made it more easy to understand, I guess, in this breakdown maybe, and I'll probably be more likely to use it, especially as you're coming up. I think that'll be valuable when you have a team that probably doesn't have the best My Team grade starting early in your dynasties. That'll be something that's extremely valuable there as you see them pitching. You see this ideal pitch here for him's playing style, playing time, and pro potential for now. But if they pull off a sway, you can unlock another check mark and have a different ideal pitch that maybe has overlap with their first ideal pitch. And that's what they're talking about. Like, so say you sway here on coach stability and proximity to home, and they become part of the ideal pitch as well. And so then you would have two of those, but it would come into play with one of these. And so then if you have these three and it overlaps with this one, that's even more points when you go to hard sell. So now hard sells can be even more impactful with potential, additional layers of ideal pitches. So once a sway is successful, you'll see visual indicators both in the left recruiting board list next to the specific motivations the recruit now cares about. Those markers make it easier to identify recruits that you have successfully swayed. And see here, that's exactly what happened. So there's the identifier that you swayed it right there, the little thing in between the check mark and the ability. And now you see 5 check marks there as potential ideal pitches that you could hard sell him on, which is cool. Your chance of success still depends on overlap, but players looking to maximize their odds can unlock the persuasive personality ability in the recruiter archetype. It gives you a critical edge in situations where you're trying to open up new recruiting paths, especially when you're trailing and need to shift the balance in your favor. Used correctly, sway can completely change the dynamic of a recruiting battle, giving you an angle of attack that other schools simply don't have. Recruiting quality of life. Now they know how important it is to have the right tools in place to manage the board, prioritize targets, and respond to moments as they happen. In 26, they've made a number of quality of life improvements across the entire recruiting experience, helping you spend less time digging through menus and more time making decisions. In 25, team needs was only accessible pressing R3. While the screen could be accessed at any time from anywhere within the recruiting hub, many players missed it or found it inconvenient to jump between views just to check the needs. So in 26, team needs is front and center, pinned on the top of the prospect list right there. When you're looking through the prospects, you can see your team needs, which is a nice touch. Makes it easy to identify what you need at a glance while you're looking to add prospects to the board. This updates in real time as you add or remove players, helping you make informed decisions in the moment. This module is meant to provide a quick summary of your immediate roster needs, while the full team needs screen includes a year-by-year breakdown and your overall grade at each position. Okay, so I like that. The full team needs screen shows you, by year who you have there at each position, and you can still get to that with the right stick. And here's a look at that. You see the team needs right up top there while they're looking through the prospects, and you see some of the new positions that we've talked about in the past there as well. Right edge, Mike, some of those included there. And you see they need 2 edges. They need a D tackle. They need a tackle. They need a free safety. So in recruiting board, you'll now see up and down arrows appear on the left-hand list next to each recruit's name, and those indicate whether you've moved up or down in that top schools list compared to the previous week. Nice. So that's just right there, easily indicated as well. Love these little quality of life improvements, and that makes it easy to identify who's trending in your favor and which ones you may need to add some more, hours and points to, do a little bit of finessing with, try and get, back into the game with. And once a recruit enters the pitch stage and narrows down their top school list to 5, a red dot appears during the first week to let you know new recruiting actions are available. Additionally, the recruit stage indicator on the left-hand list will become highlighted, making it easier to spot which players are close to committing and may require more focus and attention to secure before the competitors do. At 25, it was easy to lose track of key recruits you wanted to monitor week over week. In 26, you can now favorite recruits by double tapping triangle. Oh, I love that. That's awesome. Especially, I think that'll be super beneficial like early in the process, right? Because you're setting up your board. You may add, 20, 30 guys at first, but you really want to hone in on your favorites, especially there in the early recruiting process, 5, 10, 15 guys, depending on how many hours you have available, and to easily be able to identify those guys without having to necessarily rearrange. Because what I used to always have to do was just move those guys to the top of my board. Now I can just try and hit triangle or Y on them, depending on what console you're on, and you favorite them. And now that's a bookmark right there, and you're able to go to just the favorites on your list, which is nice. Allows you to stay focused on your top targets, keep tabs on competitive battles, and make sure you're not missing on critical follow-up actions. They've also added a new filter that lets you quickly view only your favorited recruits, which I figured was the case, which you'll be able to use with that L2 like you could last year, where you could look through ready for visit each position, all those things. Now there'll be a favorites tab, and you see the star there beside the people that they have favorited there. What you double tap the triangle button to favorite them, as you see right there, highlighted on the screen. If you hold in triangle, of course, it removes them from the board. Finally, they've added a set of advanced search filters to give you more ways to filter and search the prospect list to identify prospects who meet your needs or by targets. You can now filter by maximum star rating, minimum pipeline level, and what stage they are in. These updates are all about helping you recruit smarter, stay organized, and take action at the right time. All right, so there it is, guys. The recruiting updates in college football 26. Just something else that raises my level of excitement for this game and how hype I am for Dynasty mode, my favorite mode. And I think these recruiting features will make recruiting more fun, more less tedious as far as having to back out, go to different screens with a lot of the quality of life improvements that they made. And then, of course, even more competitive with the addition of things like recruiting battles. So I like all these additions they've made, but that's just my opinion. Would love to hear yours. Drop it in the comments section down below there. Appreciate those interactions as we continue to grow the JCCFB community. And another way you can help us do that is just by hitting that thumbs up button before you head out and being sure you're subscribed to the channel. Get all these news updates directly into your feed and get a lot of fun gameplay content once the game releases as well. And I'd appreciate that, just like I appreciate you tuning into this video, and I will catch you on the next one.